You really need to be careful who you learn money from. If you click the wrong video, you might end up spending the next 30 years of your life hearing from financial experts who tell you the only way to get rich is to eat rice and beans and use a vacuum cleaner to find nickels in your couch every Sunday. And for the next 7 years, you got to collect that lint from your dryer, all so that you can make a beautiful baby blanket. I don't know about you, but that's not the kind of life I want to lead. I want to buy a round of drinks for my friends. I want to travel and stay at a nice hotel. And I want to be able to save and invest while I'm living my rich life. This bad money advice that is everywhere costs people thousands or millions of dollars today. And I'm frankly sick of it. I want to stop it. So in this video, I'm going to flag some of the bad money advice that you should be aware of. And yes, I'm going to name names and specific bad advice to look out for. I'll break this video down into 3 parts: the problems with the bad advice, how to spot it, and then who you can actually trust. So let's get right into it, starting with bad money advice that you should watch out for. Now, popular financial personality Dave Ramsey recently casually told people that they can safely withdraw 8% of their portfolio every year during retirement. Do you understand how absurd that is? No, you don't understand. I'm about to break it down for you. 8% means that you will run out of money before you die 60% of the time. This is well understood math. The 4% rule means you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio every year and you will not run out of money before 30 years. It's a generally very good rule. You can vary it at 3.8, 3.5, 4.2. But 8%? That's freaking insane. That's like me telling you, hey man, yeah, you could totally drive your Toyota Corolla 195 miles down the freeway. It's totally cool. No problem at all. What the hell? That's nuts if you understand the math. Now, how Dave can have a national platform and go out and tell retirees that they can take 8% of their portfolio out is mind-blowing. And of course, he got roasted on social media, as he should have. Now, I got to tell you, while I personally enjoyed Dave Ramsey being roasted over his awful advice on 8% withdrawals, we industry for decades. And you're out there telling retirees that they can take 8% safe withdrawal rates. That's not just bad advice. That's dangerous. Now, another absurd piece of advice that Dave tells people is that you should keep your housing costs below 28% of gross income while at the same time paying for a 15-year mortgage. Now, that's pretty conservative advice. I don't mind being conservative with your money. The problem is that might have worked in 1975. It does not work now. Housing prices have exploded, primarily because of NIMBYs in every city in the country. Let me show you a chart of America's median household income versus median mortgage prices. Look at this. This chart shows you that housing is unaffordable. In fact, in every city in America, housing is unaffordable as defined by 28% of gross income over a 30-year mortgage. So for Dave to say you should pay that much over 15 years, not 30, is disheartening. It's also unrealistic. The average person in their 20s, 30s, even 40s finds that incredibly difficult. Now, I don't mind conservative advice, but we need to adapt with the times. We need to show people that, hey, sometimes it's better to rent. Of course, Dave might not want to do that because he's making money from lead gen to realtors. But we need to show people sometimes it's better to rent. Sometimes it's better to own. Sometimes you need to consider all your options instead of being shoehorned into advice that would have worked in 1984. Now, talk about Kevin O'Leary. You've seen him on Shark Tank. He gives a lot of advice to people in the press, talking about you shouldn't spend that much on weddings. Oh, I would never buy coffee outside. I'm a humble guy. What makes me mad is the totally absurd advice that Kevin gives in the press, specifically where he blames young people doing that old Gen Z, Gen Y thing of, oh my God, it's avocado toast. It's really all their fault. He will literally tell people not to buy coffee, not to spend anything on a wedding, and he's literally wearing $6,000 plus custom Tom Ford suits. Look it up in the press. You know, I have a simple rule. Maybe it's just me, little old me, but maybe we can all agree that you shouldn't take advice about cutting back on $3 expenses from a guy wearing $6,000 suits, period. By the way, his net worth is estimated to be over $400 million. You know, I used to think that you can make a lot of money and still be in touch with different people from different professions. And then I saw people like Kevin making the most outlandish claims on earth and then going like this, yeah, Nailed it. What the f, man? How are you going to tell the everyday person don't buy $3, $5 coffee and you literally have a silk cashmere suit on? In what universe am I living in? Oh, Kevin, by the way, mention to everybody that you were paid $15 million by FTX to be a spokesman for that failed crypto exchange. Oh, I notice you don't like to talk about that too much in the press anymore, huh? What happened to that, Kevin? Any ideas? I've been in business for 20 years, and I'll just tell you right up front, you never saw me promote a crypto scam. Why is that? You never saw me telling people, take the one joy you have in the morning, something that represents essentially no effect on your overall financial picture, and stop it. Why is that? Why is that? Maybe it's because I actually understand how human psychology works. Or maybe I just want to be intellectually honest and tell you, look, if you want to buy the coffee, get the coffee. That's not going to make a big difference. But make sure that you are investing in low-cost, long-term funds. Make sure that you have automatic savings and automatic investing set up. Make sure that you have a system so you can spend less than 1 hour a month on your personal finances, but also hit your rich life goals. Yes, you can live a rich life today and a richer life tomorrow, but you need to make sure that you're doing two things. Number one, know your numbers. Number two, master your money psychology. You do those things and you will live a very rich life. Kevin, now again, remember, things happen, markets change. I don't mind that some businesses have tough times. I've had tough times in my business, but we don't want people promising unrealistic returns. Somebody out there, I've seen these guys on TikTok, oh, do this thing. I only work 5 hours a week. I make $10 million. Not true. You're not going to do it. I could tell. I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, the nicest meal they ever had was Red Robin. These guys don't earn $10 million a year. I once had a guy DM me on Instagram and tell me he could give me financial coaching. Of course, I was like, okay, tell me what you got. He tells me he's running a business and it makes $10 million a month. Let me say that again, $10 million a month. That's over $100 million business. Now, I was looking at his Instagram page because you know I had to roast this guy. He's sitting in a little backyard. You know, like those starter homes that have the little patch of grass for your dog and like one or two of the slats are missing. And I'm sitting there looking at him going, nobody who makes $100 million a year has that fence. And I know that because that's the fence I grew up with. And we didn't have anywhere near $100 million. So little buddy who's telling me you make $10 million a month, you and I know you're You should have a healthy distrust of anyone who says they have all the answers. Google them. Look at their photos. Do they follow their own advice? Do they represent how you want to live your life? Are they always solo, taking pictures on a boat? Are they with their family or friends? When they talk about stuff, how do they talk? Are they respectful of people who have less money than them? Are they understanding that not everyone can start a successful business? Please, I'm begging you, take advice from people who understand what it's like to be you, not people who are going to shame you for wanting to buy coffee or tell you that the reason you're not a multimillionaire is that you buy avocado toast. Please do your research. This is a very important decision who you trust when it comes to your finances. And I do want you to know there are some good people giving good advice out there. In fact, that brings me to part 3, who you can trust. Now, if you're watching this, maybe you've read my book, you've seen my show on Netflix. I hope you are following some of my advice, applying it to your situation, which can get you real results. But I also want to recommend 3 other people I think are doing a great job in the financial world, because you shouldn't just follow one person, you should follow multiple people. One person I recommend you take a look at, Nick Majuli. You can find him on Twitter if you search for @DollarsAndData. Nick is a data scientist, and he shows people really surprising ways to look at money by running real numbers. You know, he recently asked this pretty provocative question. Imagine you meet someone who claims to be a financial expert. If you could only ask them one question to determine if they're legit, what question would you ask? I love his answer. How do you get rich without getting lucky? People don't want to hear about how to get rich from someone who had super rich parents. They want to know how they can do it with their background. So Nick Majuli, great guy and great advice. Another person I want to recommend to you is Gaddy Toussaint, aka Money with Cagey. Now, I like her Instagram account and I love her on Twitter. She covers a lot of awesome financial issues, including cultural and gender issues with a totally fresh take. And I really enjoyed being a guest on her podcast, which I would encourage you to listen to. Finally, I also recommend Tiffany Aliche, aka the Budgetnista. You can find her on Instagram or Twitter if you search @the Budgetnista. Tiffany has written multiple finance books, including a financial education book for children. She has a blog, she co-hosts a podcast, and she's part of a Netflix documentary. I like what Tiffany's doing because she's getting more people of color to learn about money and take control of their financial future. I recently saw her at a Nashville event, and she was telling me what her business is like and how many people recognize her on the street. It totally blew my mind. So, if you have made it to the end of this video, you now know what kind of advice should trigger your red flags. You should know what to look out for, and also some people you can trust that have your best interests at heart. Make sure you click that subscribe button and check out this video popping up on screen right now to watch more. What are the wealthy doing right now with their money? That is what I want to talk to you about tonight. And I want to start with a story that I just got today. I was texting one of my friends, a very successful entrepreneur, and I want to read you what she told me. One thing I did when this started was delete all my shopping apps. I took all the money I would have spent and redirected it to every hourly worker in my life. Housekeeper, hair, nails, trainer. Also made a big PPE donation. It's hard to take action with anything other than money right now. I've been trying to send groups emails to high net worths telling them to donate as social pressure. Some of the wealthy people I know are paralyzed with inaction. I donated $20K to this PPE thing, and the organization was freaking out that they didn't have an org set up for the tax deduction. People are dying, she texted me in all caps. I'm not thinking about that right now. I spent the day speaking to several friends of mine, people I know who have significant net worths, and I asked them what they're doing with their money. And I'll share some specific examples. Some of them will really surprise you. One of the biggest surprises I had is that the wealthy have the same concerns as everybody else, but they often handle it in very different ways. So I'd like to start off with one of the concerns that everybody has first, which is safety. Safety first. And the questions that some of them asked was, is my family taken care of? One person said, first thing I did was Venmo my brother. Another person said, are all my affairs taken care of if I get sick? See, many of the people that I spoke to have considerable complexity in their lives. They run businesses, they have multiple accounts, they have all kinds of transactions happening at all given times. So there are lots of issues that they wanted to button up. Some of them were lots of emails to their finance people, their lawyers, making sure their accounts were accessible if they were hospitalized, making sure their will was updated. And in general, one of the key things that I heard from people was any big transactions they were currently considering, they just stopped immediately. Staying consistent. So one thing I noticed is that the wealthy have the same fears, again, that everyone else has. They're impulsive, they get scared of the market. Some of them have advisors to help them stay calm. One friend said, I want more cash to keep living large or living at his lifestyle, even at the expense of not buying into market dips. It hurts to sit on cash, but it removes my anxiety of regular market moves to know that I have several years on standby. So what this person is saying is he knows he's probably losing money over the long term by sitting on a bunch of cash, but he's anxious and he doesn't like to see the market going up and down every single day. So he's just resolved, I'm going to try to cut down on my media consumption and I'm going to sit on this cash, this large amount of cash, knowing that I'm probably losing it over the long term, but in the short term, at least I feel good. Another friend told me that he has lots of cash saved, even physical cash in his house, because you just don't know what will happen. In fact, there was an ultra wealthy group that one of my friends told me about where they not only saved up a large amount of physical cash, but kept small bills. Because if they had to go out and buy, for example, water bottles, they don't want to only have $100 bills. This is a crazy thing I would have never thought, but I want to share these examples with you so you know what's going on behind closed doors, okay? This is the kind of stuff that is never talked about because if people talk about this publicly, there's a lot of pitchforks. But the fact is, there's a lot of people in the IWT community and beyond who have saved, who have invested, who have great jobs or their own businesses, and have built up considerable net worth. So tonight, that is why we are talking specifically about their concerns and how they are handling it. Let's talk about growth. There are lots of people eyeing steep discounts on real estate and cars. There's a lot of people I know who are they like to travel a lot. They're itching to get out and travel again, but they basically know there's nothing they can do, and they're actually very patient. I haven't spoken to investors eyeing businesses, but I'm absolutely sure that behind closed doors, they are waiting to invest at much, much reduced valuations. So the investors are going to be waiting with their large, massive amounts of cash, sitting on the sidelines and waiting until the time is right. So in general, behind closed doors, accountants to the wealthy and advisors to the wealthy are making tax recommendations knowing that taxes will go up, right? So and other deductions will go away. So these conversations are happening as we speak between the wealthy and their advisors, because the stimulus, which is unprecedented, is going to result in lots of changes. Most likely, I shouldn't say most likely for the wealthy, but it will certainly affect them in a big way, as it should. I should add that too. By the way, if you want to throw a pitchfork at me and call me a socialist, by all means, please do. All right. Before I get into some of the questions, I just thought I would reflect on why I wanted to talk about this today. I think that one of the things I've learned with I Will Teach You to Be Rich is that when I started off, I realized virtually all of the advice out there is written in a way that treats people like they are stupid. It's $3 questions. It's talking only about people in severe debt. And it's always focusing on the tiniest thing you can do. You know, cut back on this, or save $2 on that. And I simply refuse to do that. Yes, there are people in those situations. They should use my free material, or frankly, they should go to other people who have even better advice if that's your situation. But as I started to write about money and business, I learned that I wanted to write for people who they're ambitious. They want to live a life of yes, not no. And as I started to help people with I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and with their investments and with their businesses, they started to earn a lot of money. And suddenly they realized, man, I have a lot of money sitting around. I don't know what to do with it. And there was nobody they could look to. And I love to share what I have learned along my journey, because typically all of this stuff is private behind closed doors of lawyers, bankers, accountants, bookkeepers. And I wanted to bring it to the forefront. That's why I went on Tim Ferriss's podcast and I talked about what is it like to actually sign a prenup. And that's why I've written about what happens when you have different incomes, or your income goes way up, or your net worth grows. So I'm talking about this tonight because I don't think there's anything wrong with people who have accumulated a substantial amount of capital. What I do want to share tonight, not only is what are they doing differently, but I also want to speak specifically to the people tonight who have high incomes or high net worths. I have a personal belief that if that is you, you should be writing multiple big fat checks to help people right now. And I really believe that. That is what we did with our charity donation that we did for Feeding America with I Will Teach You to Be Rich. We did a $25,000 donation, and we encouraged our audience to do it. But it can be as simple as sending an extra check to the person who ordinarily would come by and maybe help with your haircut or your apartment cleaning. Whatever the case may be, the amount would not change your life in the smallest. But for somebody else, it could be truly transformative. So there was a quote by Neil Kashkarian when the economy really started going down. And he basically said publicly, he's like, we have an unlimited checkbook. And he's representing, I believe, one of the Fed banks. He said, we have an unlimited checkbook. For the wealthy that are watching tonight, you effectively have an unlimited checkbook. It is effectively unlimited to the people around you who need help, where to them maybe $1,000 or $2,000 could actually change their life right now, to you it would mean nothing. And so I'm doing this specifically to show you, take you behind the scenes and peel back that curtain, but also for the wealthy people watching. I know you don't usually hear people talking about this stuff publicly. It's always behind closed doors. But you should know that for you, $2,000 means nothing. But to someone else, it could be transformative for them right now. So pull out your checkbook and write the checks to the people around you. It helps.